Hello, and welcome to Not Very Scary Stories. Tonight's episode will be more stories from around the internet. Tonight we have 3 stories. 2 are from a subreddit called r/nosleep. 1, and our first, is from a subreddit called r/paranormal. Keep in mind these stories can be fiction or non-fiction, so I'll leave it up to you whether these are fake or true. Be sure to leave a sub, follow, or whatever you can on whatever platform you're on. Also, be sure to leave a review as well, so people will know to listen in as well. I'd like to thank you guys for the support thus far on all platforms you can find us on, including YouTube. I'd also like to remind everyone that if you have any scary stories or experiences you'd like to share, email me at darkskygamenews@gmail.com and tell me how you'd like to be credited. I'm Zenith Darksky, and I'll be your host tonight. Our first story is posted by u/girl Danny DeVito on the subreddit r/paranormal. It's called I Have Never Experienced Genuine Terror Until Last Night. I want to start off by saying I have never experienced anything visual like this before. If there is a possible explanation, however I'm not sure how there could be, I would like to hear it. My girlfriend and I are in the process of moving into a basement suite. We still technically reside at our old place across town for another 3 days. Her name is the only one on the lease since we've been having some relationship issues due to work stress and personal problems. This basement suite we moved into had been completely gutted and most of the appliances and flooring replaced except for the bathroom. It's now a city legal suite with its own water heater, etc., since there's been a massive police investigation done a few months prior. We weren't told much about what happened here other than drug-related incidents. I went into the bathroom to do some cleaning yesterday evening and noticed what looks like blood at the bottom of the radiator. It seemed creepy and I didn't want to touch it yet, just because gross. Anyways, a few hours pass, and my girlfriend goes to bed in the bedroom and I fall asleep on the couch watching TV. I woke up around 4 a.m. to our cat knocking a plane off the windowsill and fucking with the blinds. The lights were off, but I have a big black light aquarium in the living room which lit up most of the living room/kitchen area. My girlfriend came out of the room to ask what was going on, and I was all pissed off, half asleep, cleaning dirt off the countertops. She told me to leave it for tomorrow and just come to bed, and then walked away. I stayed up and continued cleaning for maybe 20 minutes since there was dirt all over the place. This is what fucking terrifies me, even thinking about it now. I was in the kitchen wiping down the counters. It was pretty dim, but I could still see. It's now around 4:30 a.m. I turned around towards the garbage can, and my girlfriend is standing in the dark doorway just staring at me. I couldn't see her face clearly, but it was a 6-foot thin figure, the exact build as my girlfriend. I said, "Sorry if I'm keeping you up, I'm almost done." She just stood there facing me. I figured she was just pissed off since we'd been arguing off and on this whole week. I finished what I was doing and walked past her and asked if she was coming to bed. She didn't move. I walked straight into the bedroom and closed the door, and my girlfriend was lying there sleeping. I woke her up by closing the door, and I guess the look on my face scared her enough to make her spring up in bed wide awake and ask what happened repeatedly. I started gagging, swearing, and pretty much just lost it for a minute or two. I told her I just saw her in the kitchen, and she said, "Well, yeah, I came out earlier and asked what happened." I told her no, I just walked past her into the bedroom. She pretty much just went silent, peeked out the door, and nothing was there. We both went to sleep a while later. I don't get strange feelings here at all, which is the weird part, but holy fuck. I have no idea what that was last night, and it scared me so bad I almost threw up when I realized my girlfriend had been sleeping that past half an hour. I have no idea what to make of that. This next post was posted by user/7signs on the subreddit r/nosleep. The story is called A Way to Know What Follows You. I hate walking at night. Not really because I'm scared of monsters or ghosts. Where I'm from, you get scared of more real dangers. Stray dogs, junkies, gangs roaming the street looking for the next person they can mug. And perfectly enough, I'm working the night shift. My night shift starts at 2 a.m. and I leave the house at 12 midnight. Having a workmate 1 block away from the house with the same shift takes away some of the anxiety of having to walk alone at night. We had the same shift but had different days off, so 4 times a week we meet in front of my house to take the 15-minute walk to the bus station. Pardon me for repeating, but stray dogs in my neighborhood is a major problem. One time I parkoured, if that's an actual word, the crap over my 7-foot fence to get away from a stray dog, which I think has gone rabid. Me and Trey, not his real name, were walking one night, dodging the dark parts of our street, knowing that there might be rabid dogs or junkies hiding in wait. I remember we were talking about some random thing about work, and how his family likes the new neighborhood. Trey and his family moved into town 1 month ago. We were in the middle of our conversation when I noticed a brown stray dog following us. It was strange, because usually these strays will be barking or growling at us. This one, however, was just quietly trailing 10 feet behind us. For some reason, this dog made me feel uneasy more than the usual ones barking and growling, and now that I think of it, none of them were in the streets that night. Trey noticed that I'd been looking back to the dog and asked me if everything was okay. Yes, everything's cool, it's just that... You noticed? He interrupted. I looked at him and he gestured his head to the dog. I nodded. My unease grew when his face got stiff. He was trying his best not to look at the dog. You know, in our province, we had stories about things. He was being careful with the words he chose. What? What are you talking about? We both stopped walking. The dog just stood there 10 feet away. It didn't have that rabid look about it, but he didn't look friendly either. There were things that come out at night. They prefer taking newborn babies and unborn fetuses, but some older folks were reported disappearing too. Dude, what the fuck are you talking about? I thought he was probably kidding, but his face was pale and his hands were shaking. A swing was all he managed to say, as if his throat locked up. Felt like cold water poured all over my body. As a kid, my father and grandfather have told me stories about a swing. These creatures of the night assume the forms of humans and can transform to different creatures, from black pigs to giant birds to man-sized bats, and most commonly to dogs. They feed on human flesh, preferring infants and newborn babies. Miscarriages where the fetus is missing inside the womb is also said to be caused by a swing. Dude, I think you're crazy. The desperation in my voice sounded palpable. You know, there's a way to know if that dog is... His voice was shaking now. I felt like I've had enough and I can feel my logical brain give its last breath of skepticism. If there is a way to prove what he's saying is not true, fuck it. Tell me. With your back facing it, peek between your legs. You will see its true face. He made it obvious with his choice of words that he wanted me to do it. Fine, whatever. I gathered the quickly evaporating last ounce of courage I had and did exactly as he said. I turned my back from the dog, slowly bent forward, and peeked between my legs. I guess since in this position everything looked upside down, my brain took a split second longer to process what was in front of my eyes, and for my fight or flight instinct to kick in. I saw the brown dog. upside down from my perspective. Other than that, the dog was, to say, normal. I realized as soon as I heard Trey bursting into hysterical laughter how stupid I looked. That was enough to make me give him a kick to his thigh and bombard him with a flurry of split-second curses. "You sure fell for it," he was laughing when I noticed that the dog was gone. Probably got scared of Trey's loud, hysterical laughter. "Asshole, you'll pay for this." My voice sounded more relieved than angry. Trey started walking again when I realized that I dropped my phone during the stunt Trey made me pull off. I walked back, and as I bent over to pick up my phone, I heard Trey telling me to hurry up. I asked for a vacation leave for 3 days after that night. In fact, I requested for a change in shift. I told my boss that unless I'm placed on day shift, I'll have to quit my job. I made up some excuse about health problems, but the truth is, I'm just terrified to come to work. I'm terrified to walk outside at night. I'm terrified to walk to the bus station with Trey. After seeing Trey's face when I peeked between my legs that night while picking up my phone, I'm terrified of Trey. This next story is called He Just Keeps Watching Me, posted by Skylar Palooza on r/NoSleep. I live on the 8th floor of an apartment block, with a balcony that faces the street and 2 other buildings, one directly across and one slightly further away to the left. 7 days ago, I saw a man standing on one of the balconies of the furthest building. It was dark, nearly midnight when I saw him. He was on one of the balconies 4 or 5 stories up from street level. I've never seen anyone out on those balconies since I moved in at the beginning of September, but it's not really balcony weather. He had a wide stance, legs set apart, arms by his sides, and stood stock still. He looked like he was facing my building, but it was dark and hard to tell. He also looked weirdly dark and shadowy, despite the light spilling out from the closed curtains behind him. It was hard to pick out his features against the dark, but it felt like he was facing me. I didn't worry about it though. People on balconies is a very normal occurrence, usually. It was slightly less normal when I saw him next. I saw him the next night, and he was standing on a balcony again. Same stance, same shadowiness, just a couple of stories higher this time. I thought it was strange that he was standing on a different balcony. The first night, sure, I thought it to be his own balcony, but to be stood on a different one? Chances are they weren't both his. I was pretty sure that building only had 1-floor flats. So I was a little uncomfortable and kind of confused, but I didn't look at him for long. I didn't have reason to. I just closed my balcony doors and went to bed. I didn't look the third night. I finished work late that night and just crashed into bed as soon as I got home, but I do remember feeling somewhat watched as I stumbled home that night. It wasn't until the 4th night, when I looked again, that I first started to become scared. He stood in a window of the building directly across from me. That building doesn't have any balconies, just neat rows of white windows stretching past both ends of my own building and just as high. He stood in the windows of one of the furthest rooms, closer to the building he had originally been in, so still somewhat far from me, but closer. He was closer, and I could see him slightly better. I could no longer just pass his darkness off as shadowy because of the dark night. That was how he looked, as featureless and blank as a person's shadow. But he was darker, thicker, and had more substance than a shadow. He stood in the window of a well-lit room with the curtains still open. People bustled out, back and forth in the room behind him, but they either didn't see him or didn't care. He just stood there, the inky black silhouette of a man. He didn't move. It didn't even look like he breathed. No rise or fall of his shoulders. He just stood and stared. And he was staring at me, not just my building. I don't know how I knew, but I did. He was staring at me with what looked like no eyes. I felt a cold dread creep up me, chilling my blood and making my heart pound. I stood there for ages on my cold balcony watching him. I stood there until my bare feet were so cold it was painful. Then I finally hobbled back inside. I locked the doors, closed the blinds, and removed the key from the lock. The fifth and sixth night he did the same, creeping closer. Each night he appeared in a window closer to my own and stood there, watching. But on the seventh night, last night, he appeared on the balcony directly below me. We have metal balconies with little cross-hatched floors that mean you can see slightly down into the balconies beneath you and sometimes even to the street below. They're also kind of uncomfortable to stand on, but that's besides the point. When I didn't see him in any of the windows across from me, I breathed out a heavy sigh of relief and leaned my arms against the railing. I lowered my head between my arms, stretching out as the anxiety felt like a lifted weight from my chest. But as I looked down and saw a dark figure on the balcony below, the weight came crashing back down, and I screamed. I fell to the floor, and I could see him, head tilted back and staring up at me. This close I could see that he didn't have any clothes or any features or anything. He was entirely like a shadow given life, like his whole body was made of darkness. Pitch black against the street lights below. Even without eyes, I still knew he was looking at me. I felt sick with dread, panting heavily on the floor where I'd fallen, unable to look away from him. And then I heard the faint sound of lips parting, like someone about to speak. I scrambled up, slipping and hitting my knee on a plant pot I kept outside before I slammed the doors closed, locked them, closed the blinds, and pushed the little bookcase in front. That was last night. Tonight, I can see him through the cracks in the blinds, standing on my 8th floor balcony. He did not climb. He did not drop down. He just appeared. No sound. Just there. I don't know what he is. I don't know what he wants. I don't even know if he wants to hurt me or if he'll just keep watching. But I'm scared. So scared it hurts. There's no more balconies or windows for him to look at me from. There's nowhere for him to go but inside. And I don't want him to come inside. I want him to leave, to stop watching me. I can feel his eyes on me, even when I leave the room. And I don't leave my flat, because that's where he is. Outside. I know he might come inside, but he's outside right now. So I have to be inside. No matter where I go now, I can feel him watching. Watching me. Watching me. Watching me. All the time. There's no respite. Besides, I don't think I can escape him. I can feel it in me. No matter where I go, he'll go too. Whether to keep watching or something else, I don't know. I think I'll find out tonight.